You're listening to the Intuitive Strength Podcast, and I'm your host, Brie Ogletree. I'm an online fitness coach teaching women how to use strength training and nutrition to build a body they love, but I'm also a strong believer in holistic wellness, which includes all aspects of your life. While this podcast is heavily focused on fitness and nutrition, we'll also dive into other topics that attribute to total wellness to include mental health, financial health, relationships, and stress management, to name a few. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the episode.
All right. Welcome back to the show. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Brie Ogletree. I'm an online fitness coach for women. I teach women how to use strength training to achieve their body goals long term so that they can go off and be their amazing selves in all other aspects of their life. So a few weeks ago on Instagram, I asked what move or what exercise or what move you would want to learn the most, or my audience would want to learn the most. And I gave a couple options. I think the options were pull-ups and chin-ups, handstands, and then Olympic lifting. And then I left like other options. So if they wanted to learn something else, they could say what they wanted to learn. So the overwhelming response was a tie between pull-ups and handstands. So this week, we're going to talk about what to do to get your first pull-up. So the title of this episode is Get Your First Pull-Up in 90 Days or Less. So I'm going to go over exactly what I would program to help you get your first pull-up in 90 days or less. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. It really helps out the show. Please subscribe to the podcast. If you're listening on the podcast, again, it helps out the show. It helps people discover the show, and it helps get the word out about the show. So I did write out what I would program for a client who was working towards their first pull-up in 90 days. I say they never got a pull-up, right? So this is someone who has never gotten a pull-up. This is like a beginner, what I would program for them. So if you've gotten pull-ups before and maybe you've lost them, because I know for me personally, when I don't train pull-ups, I lose the ability to do them, right? Or they become exponentially harder to do. So it's something that I have to train consistently. So you could also follow this if you maybe were doing pull-ups in the past and you kind of stopped doing them and you're trying to get them back, right? This is along the lines of what I would follow as well to get your pull-ups back. Another thing I want to say about what I'm about to explain and share with you is that this would be part of a well-rounded program, right? So I wouldn't be just going into the gym, just doing this program. So I would incorporate this into my total body training program, right? I usually train full body workouts 3 to 4 days per week. So I would work this into that training program, right? Or that training plan. So whatever plan you're following right now, I would work that into what you're already doing as part of a well-rounded program. Continue, training your full body. You don't want to just focus on pull-ups for 90 days, right? You want to make sure you're getting a well-rounded program as you're training. I'm going to attempt to put what I'm explaining right next to me so you can see like what the programming looks like and what I'm talking about. If not, there will be a guide to download. There might be both, depending on how quick I work on this video. There might be a guide, but I will type out right next to me what we're going to be going over. The last thing I want to say about the programming is ideally, I would try to do 2 days per week where you really focus on your pull-ups. Now, you can just do 1 day per week. The current program that I'm on, that's ending this week, does only focus on pull-ups 1 of the days per week, and I've already seen progress. But I've noticed that when I train pull-ups or focus on pull-ups at least twice per week is when I see a really good progress in a short period of time, like as little as a month, right? So 4 weeks of training and I'm already seeing like really good progress with my pull-ups. It's a little bit different for everybody, but I found that optimally twice per week, if you're focusing on pull-ups, is kind of where you want to be. But again, you can do 1 day per week and still see progress. All right, so let's get into it. So I kind of broke the exercises down and we're going to go like month 1, month 2, month 3, but I've also broken the exercises down into like what I would do for a warm-up and then what I would do for like the primary exercise for focusing on pull-ups, and then what I would do for accessory work after that primary exercise. So it goes warm up, primary exercise, or lift, quote unquote. You're really pulling yourself up, but primary exercise and then secondary exercises to help build that strength for your pull-ups, right? Okay, so let's start with month one. So month one, and this is again based on a beginner. If you have never hung from a bar before, right, the first thing that you're going to want to do is learn how to hang from a bar, right? So we're going to start with passive and active hangs. So if you've never hung from a bar before, I would start with the passive hang, which is literally just hanging from the bar. Again, if I have visuals, I will put them right here so you can see what I'm talking about. Just hanging from the bar, 5 to 10 seconds, right? This is part of your warm up, part of your mobility that you do for your regular workout, right? You would add these in. So I would start with passive hangs. If those feel good, I would start to incorporate some active hangs as well. And before I do the active hangs, I would do hollow holds on the ground because that's the same position you want to be in for a active hang on the bar. So you can kind of feel what that feels like on the ground before hanging your entire body weight on the bar, right? So passive hangs, active hangs, anywhere between like 5 to 10, 5 to 15 seconds per set. And then your hollow holds again, 5 to 10 seconds per set. And for your warm up, I would do at least two sets of these before you get into your primary pull up activity for the day. Okay, so passive and active hangs in month one, followed by or with hollow holds. Okay. That's your warm up. So, and then for your primary exercise for month one, I would do either banded pull-ups or assisted pull-ups. Now, banded pull-ups, you use the huge elastic bands, you wrap them around the bar, and that you use that to assist you in your pull-up. With your assisted pull-up, in some gyms there is a machine for assisted pull-ups. I prefer banded pull-ups. And the reason why is because with the assisted pull-up machines, they're all different, number one, and they don't put you in the like, and this is again my opinion, but I feel like they don't put you in the optimal position to be able to build the strength to do pull-up. Now, as a coach, I prefer banded pull-ups. I just feel like banded pull-ups put you in a much greater position to build strength towards your pull-up, and they're not as bulky, right? So you don't have you're not working around a big bulky like pull-up assist machine. You really just have the band and the bar, right? So you can put yourself in the optimal position for doing your first pull-up, and you could practice that positioning. You can practice that positioning while you are using the band for assistance. With the assistant machine, pull-up machines, those machines tend to be bulky, and you kind of have to mold your positioning or your form to, however the pull-up assist machine is set up, if that makes sense. Personally, for me, I find I feel the strongest when I'm doing pull-ups when I'm in what's called the hollow body position, which is what you're practicing in the hollow hold on the floor in your warm-up, right? Some people do perform their pull-ups with their knees bent, and like crossed behind them or just knees bent, and they do their pull-ups that way. I personally find that I get more core and lat activation if I'm in that hollow body position, right? So that's how I coach and that's how I train pull-ups. Again, it's a little bit different for everybody. You do what's comfortable for you. But what I do find with the assistance pull-up machines is a lot of them are in that position where your knees are bent behind you, and you're doing pull-ups that way, right? Again, for me personally, I feel like that takes a lot of my core out of it takes a lot of my core and my ability to create tension in my entire body when I'm doing pull-ups. So I prefer to use bands and I prefer to be I prefer to be in the hollow body position. So my legs are straight, my toes are slightly in front of me. My lats are active as I'm doing my pull-ups, whether it's body weight or banded pull-ups. I just feel like I'm able to create better tension, and I have more control over my body, and I feel stronger in that position. So if you're not sure, what works for you, this is a great time to experiment. Month one, we're just practicing, right? We're working on building that strength. So if you're not sure if you want to do bands or if you want to do the assisted machine, you can go back and forth and try like a set or two of each, or maybe 1 week try banded pull-ups, 1 week try the assisted pull-ups and see how you feel. But I find I get more out of doing banded pull-ups versus doing the pull-up assist machine. But there are times when I want to train pull-ups, right? And I don't have bands. So I have used the assist machine before as well. So there's no right or wrong answer. I'm just giving you from my experience what I find is most effective for me and clients as well. I find that using bands, I just find it's a more efficient way to train pull-ups. But you can absolutely use the assisted machine as well. So I know that was very long-winded, but banded pull-ups and assisted pull-ups, I would do sets of anywhere from 5 to 8, and I would do 3 to 4 sets of each. If you are doing banded pull-ups, I would use a band. So if you're doing 5 reps, for example, I would use a band where you could at least do 7 to 8 reps. If you're doing 8 reps for your banded pull-ups, I would use a band where you could do maybe 9, 10, 11, maybe 12 reps. So probably a thicker band, right? And the reason for this is because you want to be able to get the repetition in order for your muscles to pick up on that motor pattern, right? So we're practicing the motor pattern of pull-ups. Yes, we're also building strength. But I think it's important to practice the actual movement of pull-ups in order to really groove that movement pattern and to be able to do a body weight pull-up, right? The reason why I don't go to negatives, if you know what those are, and we'll talk about those in a minute, the reason why I wouldn't go to negatives first is because generally when you're a beginner, a negative takes a lot of motor control and a lot of strength. So that's basically like you're releasing from the top of the pull-up all the way down to like the hanging position, right? I think that takes a lot more strength for a beginner, and it just takes a lot more strength in general. So I would recommend doing banded or assisted pull-ups first to get the reps in and really feel what that feels like, and again groove the movement pattern before doing anything like negatives or iso holds, which we'll talk about in a minute. All right, so that would be my primary move for month one, banded pull-ups or assisted pull-ups. And then if you're on the assisted machine, again, you want to be at an assistance where you can complete your 5 to 8 reps, but it still feels like a challenge, right? So you may have to play around with the machine a little bit to understand or figure out what that is for you. And it's going to change as you get stronger. But you want to be able to complete your 5 to 8 reps fairly easily. It might be a little bit of a struggle, but you want to be able to finish those reps, no problem. Okay. And then once you do those, your banded or your assisted pull-ups, you're going to go to what's called like your secondary exercises to help you continue building strength and build the musculature that you're going to need for doing body weight pull-ups. So in month one, I put down a seated lat pull down. So that's really going to primarily focus on your lat muscles, right? And I would do 8 to 12 reps of those, probably about 3 sets. And then my second one, I did put 2, would be again a hollow hold, but a longer hollow body hold. So those hollow holds that you do on the floor in the beginning, I would try and hold that for 10 to 20 seconds. And again, that is training that optimal position for pull-ups, right? In my opinion, being in that position is going to help build your core. It's going to help build your back musculature as well in iso position. So you're just holding that position. I would train that as well. So that's really it for month one. It's not a lot to it. Again, this should be part of a well-rounded program. So you should be training other things as you're training this. And then if you can get in 2 days per week, that's ideal. 1 day per week is good as well. But you want to be training pull-ups on a weekly basis, right? So that's month one. Moving on to month two. So starting with the warm-up exercises, I would start with scapular pull-ups, right? So we did the active and passive hangs kind of separately in month one. I would put them together and do what's called scapular pull-ups in month two, because by that point you've had 4 weeks of passive and active hanging under your belt. So you should be able to do a few reps of scapular pull-ups. Anywhere from 5 to 10 reps per set, and I would do at least 2 sets for your warm up. I also kept hollow body holds in there, just again to warm up your core, to warm up that coordination of all your musculature in that positioning on the ground, so that when you go to hang on the bar, you're already fired up and ready to go. Okay, so there I would do 10 to 15 seconds, and again, 2 sets. And for these warm-ups, you can go back to back with those exercises, and then again, incorporate that into your workout routine, whatever you're doing for the rest of your body, right? Now, your primary exercises for month two, I would I would move to negatives and try out negatives in month two. So you've had 4 weeks of either band assisted pull ups or assisted pull ups. I would attempt for negatives in month two. So, negatives, again, you're starting at the top of the pull up and you're slowly descending down to that hang position at the bottom, right? So for your negatives, I would do 3 to 5 seconds. So aim to, lower yourself in 3 to 5 seconds, and then do anywhere from 3 to 5 reps per set, and then 3 to 4 sets per training session. Okay, so that would be your primary move for month two. And what negatives do, again, negatives are when you basically fight gravity, right? You're fighting against gravity. You're controlling how slow or how quickly you're moving your body against gravity, right? So that's going to help you build up a lot of strength in terms of handling your own body weight, right? So when we train that way, being able to pull up on the bar becomes a little bit easier. Okay, so I would make that the primary focus for month two. And then going into your secondary exercises, I would maybe shift banded pull-ups or assisted pull-ups to your secondary exercise selection, and then also do your hollow holds. Okay, so to recap, you have your scapular pull-ups and your hollow holds, short hollow holds for your warm-up. And then for your primary move, you have your negative pull-ups, 3 to 5 second descents or lowers, right? For 3 to 5 reps. And then your secondary movements are going to be your banded pull-ups and your hollow holds. The only thing I didn't mention, so your rep scheme for your banded or assisted pull-ups, I would aim for a higher rep scheme. So 8 to 10 reps for those, because it is now a secondary exercise. It's not your primary exercise, right? So you might want to use a thicker band compared to what you were using in month one. And then your hollow body holds, you can do either weighted and then just increase the amount of time that you're doing. So in month one, the recommendation was anywhere from 10 to 20 seconds. In month two, I would do maybe 15 to 30 seconds for your hollow holds. Or another option is to do your weighted hollow body holds, where you're holding either a dumbbell or a kettlebell at your head or in your hands, and then or at your feet as well. So that's an option. And you can do the same amount of time that you did in month one if you're adding that weight in. For all of these exercises, for your primary and secondary, I would do 3 to 4 sets again. Okay, so that is month two. And then month three is when we're going to test our pull up, right? So if you're not familiar with my programming, I train in 4-week blocks, right? So for month three, for the first 3 weeks or so, 2 to 3 weeks, I would say, I would do these exercises that I'm about to explain. And then in week 4 is when I would test your body weight pull up. Your warm-up exercises for month 3, again, would be your scapula pull-ups if you wanted to add on a few reps, because you've gotten that practice in month 2, you could do that. So I wrote anywhere from 8 to 10 reps per set. You're still going to do 2 sets. It's just a warm-up, right, to get your body primed for pull-ups. So 2 sets there, and then your hollow holds, again, 10 to 15 seconds. They should be relatively short for 2 sets. Again, just to coordinate your body, holding that that muscular tension as you're doing pull-ups, just priming that before you hang on the bar. Okay, so 2 sets in your warm up. And then for your primary exercise for month 3, what I would focus on is what's called ISO holds. So ISO holds at the top of the pull up position. Okay, so I would start anywhere from 10 to 15 seconds here. And what that is you are holding your chin above the bar, right? And you're just holding at the top. So you keep core, everything nice and tight. You're still in that hollow body position, but you're at the top of the pull up and you're holding that for 10 to 15 seconds. Now, by month 3, you should be able to have some type of hollow hold at the top with all of the strength that we've built up in the first 2 months, right? Yeah, you should be able to hold that position at the top. This is a challenging exercise, but again, we should be able to do that in month 3. Now, from there, you can also add a negative to this. So you hold for your 10 to 15 seconds at the top and then do a slow lower all the way to the fully extended position, right, of that pull up. So you're just hanging on the bar. So for those, I would do, again, 3 to 4 sets. And then your secondary exercises, I would still keep either your band assisted pull-ups or your assisted pull-ups, again, to get that movement pattern in and groove that movement pattern. Now, I did drop the reps down for the assisted pull-ups because the ISO hold is going to be pretty fatiguing. So I would do sets of 5 for your band assisted or your assisted pull-ups. So that would be your secondary exercise. You can also still put in those hollow holds, those weighted holds if you'd like to, as an assistance exercise as well. Or you can do a lat pull down as an additional assistance exercise. So one or the other. So band assisted / assisted pull-ups, definitely. But then you can also put in some hollow holds, some weighted holds, or a lat pull down. So for month 3, I would do that for the first 3 weeks. And then in week 4 is when I would test your body weight pull up. So every day that you work on your pull ups, I would go in and test just your body weight. On actual test day, I would still do some warm up exercises. So I would still do the scapula pull ups, I would still do the hollow holds, and then I would go for testing your body weight pull up. All right. So I'm going to do my best to get this into like a PDF that you can reference, and it should be linked in the show notes below. If not, it's definitely coming. I just needed some time to get it together. But that's what I would do to train my first pull up if I was going back and working on getting my first pull up, or if I was working with a client. This is how I would train or how I would program for someone trying to get their first pull up. Last thing I want to say about this is there's a difference between a pull up and a chin up, right? So if you're training pull ups, it's the overhand grip on the bar. And if you want to train chin ups, it's the underhand grip on the bar. What I've done in the past, like I said, I'm only training chin ups once a week right now. What I've done in the past is I've done one day where I work on the pull up, so overhand grip, and then I've done one day where I do chin ups on the bar another day in the same week. So that'll be like my 2 times per week. So if you want to do that, you could do that as well. Still following the same programming, you would just switch your grip on the bar when it comes to your chin ups, right? So you can do that as well. But that's really it. Again, this should be part of a well-rounded program, right? So it shouldn't be the primary focus, which is why there's not a lot of exercises, right? You're focused on, just getting a good proper warm-up in and then focusing on one primary exercise and one, maybe 2 secondary exercises to help help you build up the strength and positioning to be able to do your first pull-up. So that is going to be it for this episode. A little bit of more of an informal episode this week, but I hope that was helpful. Again, I'm going to try and get this free guide available as soon as this episode is available, so you can just download it and start incorporating it right away into your strength training program so you can get your first pull-up. And if you do follow this programming, please let me know, and please let me know about your progress as you go. I would love to, hear how you're doing with your pull-ups, and how it's going and how your tests went. If you were able to get your first pull-up in 90 days. I believe that if you follow this program for 90 days, you should have no issues getting your first pull-up. All right. Thanks for watching. Again, please consider subscribing to the show, to the channel, to the podcast, wherever you are listening, watching this video or this audio. It really does help out the show. It really helps get out the word about the show. And if strength training is something that you as a woman want to learn more about, if you want to learn like the proper techniques, the programming, how to eat, in order to get the best results with strength training, I will be opening up my group coaching program called Lifting Confidence very soon. So definitely get on the wait list if that's something that you're interested in. You can get on the wait list at breogletree.com/waitlist. And that is just so that you are the first to know when I open my doors, or when I plan on opening my doors. It's going to be soon. So definitely get on that wait list so that you're the first to know about it. All right. Well, thank you for tuning in. I will talk to you next week, and have a good rest of your week. Bye.